Welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time on my YouTube channel, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel because I do content like this all the time. And then if you like what you're seeing right now, feel free to give this video a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the topic at hand. And this time we're going to be talking about video game consoles and the problem with video game consoles. More specifically, we're going to be talking about drift because drift is all too common when it comes to video game consoles and their controllers. It's just a very common problem in this day and age. And unfortunately, I wanted to talk about it because I recently experienced drift, which was out of control. So recently, you guys probably already know, if you're subscribed to the channel or you pay attention to my channel, you guys know I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring. Elden Ring is an amazing game. It's definitely right now one of my favorite games of all time. It's that amazing of a game. If you haven't played Elden Ring, what are you waiting for? You really need to play Elden Ring. It is such an amazing game, but that's besides the point. But recently I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring up until about a couple of days ago when I realized I really couldn't play Elden Ring anymore just because my controller pretty much went haywire. I got really heavy drift on my controller. Keep in mind, I am playing on the brand new Xbox Series console. You can see right here, here is the controller right here, and this controller is pretty much trashed at this very moment because if I try to move the right stick, it just will not function properly. It goes bizarre. The drift on this controller right now is so bad, I can't even control the game at all. It's pretty much unplayable. You might as well just throw this controller in the trash can. That's how bad the drift is. And it's really weird with drifting issues, whether it's Xbox, PlayStation, or the Nintendo Switch. It's really weird how drift actually works because sometimes drift will be there, sometimes drift will not be there. It's kind of like the drifting issues decide to be there whenever they feel like it, and I'm not really too happy about that, honestly. Who would really be happy about that, considering video game consoles are very expensive, controllers are about the price of a game, if not more. It's just really unacceptable, and this controller right now is trash and it's pretty much unusable. So basically what I ended up doing, I actually ended up buying a brand new controller right here. Here is the brand new controller for my system. I just said, I don't want to deal with the drift anymore. I don't really want to try to repair it since I'm not really a repairman. I can't really open it up and try to play with the sticks and replace the sticks or anything like that. So I just went out and bought a whole brand new controller. It does suck since controllers are expensive, but I had to do what I had to do when it comes to the drifting issues. And then when it comes to my Nintendo Switch, my old Joy-Cons, believe it or not, don't have drift, but they used to have the heaviest drift of mankind, honestly, when it comes to game controllers. And these are the ones that had Joy-Con drift. But the thing is, with the Joy-Con drift, with these controllers, these Joy-Cons don't have drift anymore. It's kind of like the drift stop. Like I said in one of my previous videos, drift is so unpredictable. One day you'll have drift. The next day, you'll not have drift. Maybe you'll have it for a couple minutes, and then it'll just go away. Drift is so unpredictable. And the weird thing about it, for me personally, is the fact that I do baby a lot of my electronics and a lot of my gadgets and a lot of my controllers. It's not like I'm throwing these things around. It's not like I'm rotating the stick very violently or anything like that. I don't eat around my controller and things like that. I really do understand why drift actually happens. It happens because the parts inside pretty much wear down, or maybe like dust and debris get inside of the controller and messed up the input of the actual controller. And it is unfortunate too. There's really no permanent solution to drift. A lot of people on the internet and around have been talking about different ways to fix drift, and I pretty much tried everything humanly possible to fix this controller besides actually opening it up and repairing this. So I tried things like the common putting alcohol on a swab and then trying to rub it around the actual the actual stick, blowing into the stick and things like that, or rotating the stick around and going to the menu of the actual system and trying to recalibrate it. Nothing just seems to work when it comes to freaking drift. And like I said again, this controller is practically unusable at the very moment, and that's actually absolutely insane and absolutely maddening to me. These issues should not actually really happened, and that's really what prompted me to want to make this video in the first place, because this controller got mad drift, the worst drift humanly possible. This is just really unplayable, and it's so frustrating. Some people might have thought it was just the Nintendo Switch recently that gets Joy-Con drift, but no, any controller can get drift. But the weird thing to me is, in my experiences owning video game consoles harkening back to the 90s, I never once got drift until the recent generations of consoles. I got it on last generation hardware. I did get it on a PS4 controller, but luckily it wasn't too bad, and luckily I didn't play my PS4 that much, so it was like, yeah, it's not really that big a deal. So I just ended up dealing with the drift on my PS4 controller, but my Xbox One controllers never got drift, and I own 2 of those controllers, so I guess it's kind of hard to say, will you get drift or will you not get drift? Apparently, from what I heard around the internet and things like that, you can do more research on this yourself, but apparently when it comes to the drifting of these controllers, apparently what they're rated for, they're only rated for like 400 or 500 hours of use, and after that they said that they're pretty much guaranteed to wear down, and that's absolutely insane, because if you think about it, a lot of people hit that 400-hour mark in like the first year of owning the system, and that's just not great considering how expensive these controllers are. Let's put it into perspective. Sure, these controllers are like $60 or $70, but what if you buy something like a SCUF controller or buy the Xbox Elite controller, which can cost you upwards of $200, and those are expensive? What are you going to do when your controller for $200 craps out on you and has mad drift? Are you just going to have to throw it in the trash can? Something really needs to be done about drift, and it's really weird. You would think up until today's standards, we would have already fixed the problem with drifting, because controllers that have these type of joysticks, analog sticks, whatever you want to call them, have been around since the 90s, ever since the N64 got a stick on the N64. You would think they would be manufacturing these for years and they would have actually solved the problem, but it looks like they have not solved the problem when it comes to stick drift, and it's really unfortunate here, and I wish these controllers wouldn't get drift, because these are the main way you have to play the system, and if this goes out, you pretty much can't play your system at all, and these are almost pretty much guaranteed to go bad, and it really does suck as well if you're playing something like maybe like the new Steam Deck, or maybe you're playing something like the Nintendo Switch Lite, and then you do get drift in some scenario. You're pretty much out of luck. What are you gonna do? Send it back to the factory, open it up? At least with something like this or something like the original Nintendo Switch, you can kind of replace it with a brand new controller, because they're not attached to the actual system itself. They're actually independent from the system, which is actually great, because if these were attached to the system, oh my lord, that would be infuriating for a lot of people out there. A lot of people out there would actually have to end up setting their systems back, getting a whole... It's just a headache, and I don't understand why these have drifting issues. I understand why they have drifting issues, of course, like I said before, but I don't understand why it's just so freaking common. You would think after all these years they would do something about drift, because I am freaking fed up of drift, and I'm pretty sure either the controller I bought is going to end up getting drift just randomly, or my new Nintendo Switch OLED is going to end up getting drift. It just seems like you cannot avoid drift no matter what you do. And yes, with this controller, I am trying to baby it as much as possible. I try to keep it away from dust and debris by putting it back in this box. I try to keep my hands washed as much as possible. I don't eat around the controller. I don't really go hard on the sticks, because I know sticks get drift. And it's just so frustrating that these controllers, again, are so expensive and they get drift. Something has to be done. I know not everybody experiences stick drift, but stick drift I just feel like is just way too common nowadays, and it's so annoying. It's kind of like gambling the lotto. You never know the next time you turn on your system and play it, will your sticks have drift or will your sticks not have drift? It's just so annoying, and I'm experiencing so much drift, whether it's the Nintendo Switch, whether it's the Xbox. I heard people with the PlayStations are experiencing drift. It looks like drift is just unavoidable no matter what type of person you are, and no matter how you play your system. It looks like you're going to get drift over time, but it's so weird. Back many decades ago, I never got drift until last generation with the PS4, and then with the Nintendo Switch, and now with the Xbox Series controller, I have drift, and it's so annoying. I don't know why, because I beat the heck out of things like the GameCube controller, the PS2 controller. I would beat those sticks up, and those sticks for some reason never got drift. Maybe I just got lucky enough to where nothing really got into them to damage the sticks, but it's just so annoying. Please, for the love of God, fix stick drift. Stick drift is a big issue, and I don't think it's something we should take lightly in the gaming industry. Something has to be done because it is so frustrating when stick drift happens, and I'm experiencing it again right now, and it's just so scary to know that you might wake up and your stick just go out. If these things were more cheaper, like $20 or $30, maybe I'd be like, yeah, it sucks, it's getting drift. I'm not trying to defend that drift doesn't suck. It definitely sucks. But if these controllers were much more cheaper, it wouldn't really bother me. I would just go out and buy a whole brand new one. Honestly, I would be okay if these controllers were much more expensive, if it can guarantee the stick drift never ever happens. I would easily end up paying close to $200 for a controller that could never get drift, honestly. That's how insane drift is and how annoying drift is. You know, when you get drift, some games are just unplayable, and some games are playable, but then they're hard to play. It's just a nightmare when you get stick drift, and I'm sure a lot of you out there have experienced stick drift, but there's my experience with stick drift, and something has to be done, honestly, moving forward, because this looks like it's going to be this type of controllers we're going to be using moving forward, whether it's this generation, next generation, moving on. Sticks are the main way we control video games, and it's really unfortunate. Anyway, guys, this is Wayne from My Tech News, signing out.